This is our podcast, The Working Poor. I'm Austin Phelps, and I'm here with my co-host, Cindi Halkola, Peace Mazelis, and Dan Mazelis. So, everybody, what do you think about this coronavirus?
Crazy times.
We have a possible victim on our panel here.
Mm. Ah, yeah. My voice sounds like this because I have laryngitis. Sunday night, around 11 o'clock, I got this big cough. And then about 4 o'clock in the morning, this big cough woke me up from a sound sleep. So I texted my boss. I said, I don't feel comfortable going into work until I get this checked out. First thing Monday, I went to the doctor. She took me at 1:30 because she was at lunch. And didn't check me for the coronavirus. I mentioned it 3 times. I wouldn't have come in except that we have this coronavirus going around. She said, well, did you get your flu shot? And I said, no. She said, have you been around anybody who's had the coronavirus? I said, not that I know of. She said, have you traveled at all? I said, no. She said, well, then you have the flu. I had a cough and 102 temperature. There was no test done on the coronavirus. There was no test given for me for the flu. She just examined me and said, yep, you have a flu. I'm prescribing Tamiflu. Go to the pharmacy and pick it up.
Ridiculous when we have at least 2 cases that I know of that are confirmed in the county. You would think that they would be going overboard to make sure that nobody has it.
Well, there's
Yep.
no test available because they want to keep the numbers down. The
Right.
administration wants to keep the numbers down so nobody gets tests.
The next day, my boss texted me with the news that a person in a neighboring town in Warren County came down with what he was tested positive for coronavirus. I said, well, I'm surprised they tested him. He
Well,
must
they
have.
don't. They said they only test people who go to the hospital. If you're in the hospital, they test you.
Oh, and it was Hackettstown Medical Hospital that he was in.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Hmm.
Yeah,
And-
that's why we're getting bit drips and drabs. I mean, we hear about cases here and there, but so many more. I mean, I'm at work. The place is packed. There's people there all over the place. Nobody gives a shit about this. We've all had
I mean-
contact. I mean, 80% of the people who get this barely will have symptoms. I mean, you'll feel a little sick. So we've all had contact.
I expected not to be able to breathe because I have bad lungs to begin with.
Yeah, you are more immunocompromised.
Yep. Yep.
But even still, I mean, you never know.
No, and I'll still never know because I was never tested.
Cindi, do you still have a fever?
No, that broke Wednesday around noon. Tuesday at noon.
All right, do you think you had the coronavirus, or do you honestly think it was something else?
I don't think it was the coronavirus because my fever was 102, and they're saying that the coronavirus has a low grade temperature.
Okay.
So
The coronavirus is not this monster disease. I mean, the flu kills more people every year than the coronavirus does. And that's why when someone is diagnosed or someone is believed to have it, that's why they need to self-quarantine. And that's why they want everybody to stay in. So it doesn't keep spreading all around because you may not show any symptoms, but you're passing it around to everyone.
yeah, well, I just got an email from St. Luke's Hospital, because the doctor I went to is on that network of St. Luke's, and they said if you have signs of the coronavirus, stay home and take care of yourself and just self quarantine.
Yeah, 80% of the people
I mean,
can stay home
that's-
and just ride it out. It's like having the flu. It's even a milder flu for most people.
Well, there are people that do experience, stronger symptoms. I don't think we should, tone that down any because there are, so here are the numbers right now. The numbers live at this second, there are 200, and this is according to worldometers.info/coronavirus. Go check it out. Coronavirus cases right now in the world are 274,643. 11,366 deaths. So to say, that, the flu kills more people annually, well, sure, but we don't know about the coronavirus. the impact it's going to have, and it's already killed 11,366 people, and that's a lot. And I think that
But the point
it's
is,
just it is.
and those 11,000 fall into that 20%. I'm not saying it's harmless. I'm saying the flu is much more deadly, and I'm saying that the issue with this virus is the infectiousness, and 80% of the people can, if they think they have it, can ride it out at home by not exposing themselves to other people.
And here in the state of Illinois, where I'm from, we are doing our whole stay-at-home order that will go into effect on March 21st, tomorrow at 5:00 p.m. So yeah, there are these things being implemented where we can hopefully keep the numbers down, and people that are infected should stay at home. But I'm just afraid that, people aren't going to be able to, obviously, because, here on the podcast, we are the working poor representing that, and we have to work. Everybody here has a job, except for me right now, because I was just laid off considering, the coronavirus, and I'm a student employee and can't work now. But we all here work, out on the front line, and we're all exposing ourselves to, we're all, we can't just stay at home and quarantine. So what would you say to those people?
Well, the people who have to be out in public, there are precautions you can take. Proper hygiene, washing regularly, surfaces, knowing how long the virus lives on certain surfaces, and be careful what you touch. Staying 6 feet away from people so you don't get those droplets just from talking that could be out in the air. There are things you can do to protect yourself, but again, it's not, if you're out in public, you're exposed. You're gonna, I think most of us have made contact at this point.
Yeah.
And the idea we're not texting, the idea that we're not testing more people is insane. An article here, where is it? This is just a new one I found from USA Today, talking about how NBA players are being tested due to the fact that I guess, NBA players just tested positive for the coronavirus. But they're testing people that aren't even showing symptoms. Yet poor people here in America, Cindi. Yeah, Cindi, they just tell you to go home. They told Cindi to go home. Obviously, Cindi, you probably didn't have the coronavirus, but you didn't know. And if they're just testing, if the president can get tested, if NBA players can get tested, if Tom Hanks can get tested, then why can't average Americans? Where are the tests for us? How are they getting the test? And I know that we're supposed to be setting up testing centers here in my town, specifically of Carbondale, Illinois. But I don't know how that's going on. There's a hotline to even call. But I know from seeing on Facebook from one of my old professors, she has been, worrying that she has experienced symptoms and has been missing work and has been sick, and her family's been sick, and they most likely don't have the coronavirus. But the idea is that we're not testing people that are showing symptoms, even though we're testing people that aren't showing any or that have money. And I think that says so much.
And that is deliberate, because the Trump administration is trying to keep those numbers down. They don't want to show a lot of cases in America. And they're confident that the disease is going to be safe enough for most people, that if we just tell them to stay inside, it's no big deal. We don't need to know the actual number of people.
Right.
That's the problem.
Nobody knows the coronavirus better than Donald Trump. He's great at everything.
He's got a knack for it.
I understand it's the first time that we're living through anything like this. Maybe they did for TB and polio, but
the Spanish flu, they're saying, is closest to what this was like, and that was devastating.
Yeah, but it's contradictory. Without testing me on Monday, she was sending me back to work on Wednesday.
Yeah.
If I had the coronavirus, I was supposed to be quarantined for 2 weeks. Yeah. I work with elderly people. They don't care.
It makes no sense.
No. Either it's important enough for everybody, for the curfew to happen and the bans to happen and the businesses to close down and lose all this money, or it's not important enough to even test us.
What about the idea that this is Mother Nature's inoculation and we're the virus?
Who was that just said that? Was that Peace or Dan? Couldn't tell the difference in the
I'm not
voice.
taking
Here we
credit for
go.
that.
I just something like that. I don't like thinking in those terms. And I also know there's a lot of, talk, about people. I just feel like this whole thing's being downplayed in the way that, and I don't know if this is something different. It probably is, but in the way that it kind of excusing it because it is the elderly. We're seeing in Italy, they're telling elderly people to go home to self-quarantine, basically sending them home to die because they're prioritizing hospital beds and ventilators. But we can't do this based on age. And I just think that we're all so, I mean, not, all of us, but I feel like the general response here is that if you're young and healthy, you're going to ride this out. But there are 30-year-olds on ventilators in some
Yeah.
countries, and
Sure.
we're healthy
Even here.
30-year-olds.
Even
And
here.
even here. So there's just a lot that we're not talking. Oh, you're young and healthy, but what about if you have asthma, if you have HIV, if
Right.
you have diabetes, heart
Yes.
disease?
Yeah.
I mean, and it is going to affect severely 20% of the people who get it, and it's going to kill a lot of those people too. But this is the decision that the administration has made, that's worth it to keep the numbers down. I agree with you. It's not right.
No, it's like a disease of convenience. It's
Mhm.
horrible. Everybody stay in until we get our belongings in, and then we'll test people, and then we'll actually do what we should have been doing right from the beginning.
Rather than get in front of it, see, okay, how many people is this affecting? What's going on with this? Being transparent and actually trying to fix the thing, like they're doing in Italy and like they're doing in South Korea and many other places that have had great success, who were affected much more strongly than us. We could be 2 weeks away from in Italy if things don't change.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. With everything changing so drastically, all the worst case scenarios are right around the corner if things progress.
I wanna. Oh, go ahead.
No, I just said yep. I agreed.
I want to go. We're all the working poor. Once again, we represent that. We are people who work every day. Most of us retail jobs. I know, Cindi, you're in more of the healthcare field. Certainly don't get paid enough for it. But we're all out there. We're on the front lines, except for me at the moment, because once again, I was laid off. But I was up until just a couple days ago. So, Peace, just to kind of get you in here, now that we finally heard your lovely voice for the first time tonight. I know that you are still working. You and Dan work at the same retail store. I'm sure you'll talk grocery store. I'm sure you'll talk about that more later. But I know that you're kind of you've kind of been concerned going to work. I know you work in the deli where they do things did things like sampling food items, stuff like that. And now they're not doing that. And I just how has the protocol changed working day to day? What is the talk there every day at the establishment you work at, the grocery store?
Yeah, people are just nervous more and more every day. It feels like a place that we shouldn't be with crowds and crowds of people.
Mm-hmm.
It feels counterintuitive being there.
Yep.
And yeah, people are scared and they don't like it. It's a very real fear.
In the military, the people on the front lines are the ones who die first. They don't care about them, just like they don't seem to care about us working poor. We're on the front lines making paycheck to paycheck money. We're not in a business, we're not in a corporation where we have the ability to work from home on our little computers. Those people are making 50, 60,000 a year.
And to go along with that, I mean, do any of you have the option to work from home?
I thought about doing it, but it would just be so many trips making a pan of muffins in my oven every 5 minutes.
I'll put my order in.
Would you be doing all those dishes too?
Oh, even the plastic forks.
I know that there's been talk about like what happens if we do go under, let's say, a national quarantine, which I know there isn't exactly talk of that right now, and I know some people are saying like that's rhetoric, and it's feeding into the negative. But, I feel like it's a natural place to talk about. Other countries have obviously implemented nationwide quarantines that have dealt with large numbers. So if this happens, who's going to be prepared for it? I mean, are any of you stocked up on any items, or are you able to afford to?
I work in a grocery store. I don't have to stock up.
I think I have 5 rolls of toilet paper.
This is going to be Trump's opportunity to declare martial law when it gets bad enough, and he's going to love that. He'll be the king.
And you're saying that's a real place you think we're going to go, is martial law?
If we get like Italy, yeah. And I don't think he minds. That's why there's not been the big reaction, because he would like to be more like China or some of these more dictatorial places that use authoritarian measures to control this stuff.
Just to speak to this, informs how that's even happening already that I've seen. With our curfew in New Jersey at 8 o'clock, coming home from work at 10, I see police parked everywhere in the gas stations, on the highways, on the sides of the road, just parked without their lights on, just waiting. It makes you feel like they are ready to pull over and question anybody. And I feel like that's how it starts. I don't know what you've seen, Pops, if the atmosphere is any different at midnight when you go in.
I don't see any cops when I go in, but I was on break about 3 o'clock, and a cop rolled up and was just talking to me. He was like, you think, what are my chances of getting paper products in there tomorrow?
That's funny.
And I haven't gotten pulled over or anything, but but your interaction with that seems pretty lighthearted then.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't, he seemed to be what I've seen from most people that live in this town. He seems to feel it's an overreaction, and we don't need to be curtailing our activities as much as we are.
It's where the contradiction comes in. Is it important or not important?
Well, that's just it. And to what level? Because right now our economy is being devastated because of this. Because there's none of these businesses are collecting any money.
Nope.
And that's going to get worse. But it's a question of how important is it?
And if the little businesses weren't doing well to begin with, and like barely making ends meet to begin with, and they're closed, we don't know if they're going to reopen. They might not be able to reopen.
A lot of businesses are going to go bankrupt because of this, of course.
Yep, depending on how long it lasts.
And there's a theory that this is all a big plot to reform capitalism, to concentrate the capital by taking out all of these small businesses, even mid-level businesses. All you're gonna be left with is these giant corporations, these Amazons and Walmarts, and they'll then control everything.
We already don't exist to the politicians because we're the working poor. We have the middle class, the wealthy, the poor that can get help. I've never qualified. They need to raise that, raise the poll for me to qualify.
To qualify for
any kind of assistance. If you're really poor, like homeless, and 10 kids and one mom or something, then you can qualify for things, for help, for financial aid, for to live with, rent help and housing and all kinds of stuff. But if you're just getting by, and you're making $20,000, you don't exist. If the middle class starts at $150,000 per year, and the poor goes up to $20,000, if you're making $25,000, what are you? You're nothing to them. If you're making $40,000, you're nothing. You don't count.
And you're saying you don't qualify for any assistance because you're just right above the cutoff. Right.
And I've always been right above the cutoff because I try to make ends meet.
Went to Politico here, where the Senate GOP, Mitch McConnell, ended up introducing legislation in the Senate for a coronavirus package. And the quote reads from Politico. The article reads from Politico. The centerpiece of the Senate Republican proposal, crafted with support from the White House, is a direct payment to qualified Americans of up to $1,200. Married couples could get $2,400. Taxpayers who earn more than $75,000 annually will begin to see that payment reduced by $5 for every $100 they earn over the $75,000 threshold, with those who make more than $99,000 getting nothing. Families with children would get $500 per child. So my question for discussion is $1,200 enough? Cindi, would that $1,200, peace, Dan, me, would that be enough? Is that going to help you right now? Is this enough to hold us over for this whole, time, which, could be, right now it seems indefinite. So
Let me
Is
ask
it a
you this.
monthly payment or a one-time payment?
this is a one-time payment. Now, other people are proposing different things, but right now, this is what's in Congress right now.
Any money in my pocket is a help because that's how we live. Paycheck to paycheck means you give me $100 more in a paycheck, it's a big deal. If I was making $60,000 and getting $100 more in a paycheck, it'd be like, vacation money, milk money. Even $75,000, it wouldn't be anything,
Yeah,
But
any amount is the right thing to do, but
mhm.
they're looking to get away with the minimum that they have to do to appease the people so they don't riot in the streets. But here's my question: how is it that they just dumped $2 trillion into the stock market for nothing?
Yeah.
It was gone in an hour. How do they have the money for that? They talk
Mhm.
about bailing out the airlines.
Yeah.
Do we need the airlines? Of course we need the airlines. If they can't succeed, why are we giving them money? Why not a buyout? Why not, okay, here's the money, now we own the airlines? Why are we
Yeah.
keep spending money on nothing?
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
Why
Well,
is that bailouts? We bailed out the banks. Why not a buyout? That's ours now. That's our money. We saved it. If we own it.
mhm. That
And
would
I
make
completely agree. We're sitting here debating, if we qualify for assist, talking about the money as in terms that it's theirs, that they're being generous by letting us have this, which, is just a slap in the face considering, all these things mentioned. But there are other politicians on the Democratic side being, this is from Vox.com, being Michael Bennet, Cory Booker, Sherrod Brown, that want to give as much as $4,500 per American, and how that would happen would be immediate payments of $2,000 to all adults and children in the U.S. below a certain income, $90,000 for singles and $180,000 for couples. And after that, if we were still in crisis in July, the Americans would get another $1,500, and if it was true again in October, there'd be another $1,000. So this would be this would be a plan that was where the money was paid out over time. So I think that would definitely, I think that's more of the route that we need to go, because they're talking about till August for then there's another reports talking about, this could go on for 18 months. We don't know how long this could go on. The stock market's crashed. We're broke. We're out of jobs, and we need money now.
Yeah. But I find it interesting that our president, who's a Republican, is giving money at all, because isn't that a form of socialism? Just saying.
Again, he's looking for the minimum amount that he's got to spend to appease the masses, to prevent riots in the streets. That's all he's trying to do.
Would $4,500 be enough?
The situations are different. I mean, I think any amount is the right thing to do. That's how they need to look at this. We need a stimulus package.
Well, he certainly stimulated the airlines.
Yeah, $50 billion.
Yeah.
It should be our airlines now. We saved them. That's our money.
Yes. Yep.
So, going over now, we're going to move. I know it's going to be kind of hard, but we're going to kind of try to transition from the coronavirus and get into a more political discussion, being Bernie Sanders versus Joe Biden for the Democratic nomination. Of course, this past Sunday, we had the one-on-one debate with Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. What did you all think?
I thought it was underwhelming. I don't think the ball was moved one way or the other. Bernie needed to come out stronger if he was going to change the game, and he really didn't. Frankly, I mean, things are changing so rapidly every day now. He's done with the primaries. I think he sees that they're not going to let him have it. Period.
Yep.
There's too many things working against him. They're going to sabotage everything he does, and they're going to say, they're going to talk about for 100 years how socialism doesn't work. Look at President Sanders. What a mess that was.
Yeah,
Because
but ironically, socialism is what's bailing out capitalism when something like a pandemic occurs.
I think that he got that point across in the debate.
Definitely did.
Saying that we have to, every chance he got, he kept mentioning how he had to take, these extreme measures, and whether or not we have the courage to tackle the insurance companies and the fossil fuel industries. And I think he did a good job painting that picture.
Yeah, he wanted to give every American $2,000 a month during this pandemic until it, comes to a close.
But I'm not saying Bernie didn't. Bernie did a good job of presenting his case. Yes, what he didn't do is he didn't call Joe Biden a liar. He didn't call out the media for all the damage that they've done. I mean, the whole establishment. He sees the writing on the wall. He knows they're not going to let him have it. Period. And he's refocusing his efforts. He's. I don't know if you guys read the email I sent you, but he's got this whole coronavirus plan. Did you hear him curse out that CNN Manu Raza guy?
Yeah.
The fucking global crisis. I don't want to talk about the election.
I do think that Bernie Sanders, I feel like his approach to the debate wasn't to go out and necessarily advance his campaign for presidency, but go out there with one final swinging hit and to say, because I disagree. I do have to say, I do feel like Bernie Sanders called out Joe Biden enough to where he wasn't going to, it's Bernie Sanders. He's going to, at the end of the day, endorse Joe Biden. We've all known that. We've known this since 2016 with Hillary. So he is not going to go out there and completely trash Joe Biden. And I think that it would honestly, it could hurt Bernie if he did. I think he went out there. I think he said, I'm going to give this one last swing in the way of advancing the movement. I'm not going to necessarily go make the case of why I should be president, but I'm going to make the case for change. And, he was giving Joe Biden the opportunity to answer some of the things for Bernie supporters, the things we have questions about. And Joe Biden didn't do that. Bernie Sanders noticed that. And I felt like I thought he went with it. I thought Bernie was very questioning. I thought I just really thought he held his own as a supporter. I think he went out because, like we've all said, he knows he's not going to get the nomination. That wasn't what this debate was about for him at this point. He was a front runner like a month ago. Now he's not. But I think that he went out there swinging, and I think that he did what he could.
I agree with you. But the reason he's not the front runner is because it was rigged, because they manipulated the primaries.
Oh yeah.
And he sees the writing on the wall. He's not going to fight the establishment. He can't. He's one person, and that's what he's always said. It's not about him.
Nope. And the establishment is the GOP and the DNC both. It's the same eagle with two sets of wings. One pair.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. Same wings, same feathers.
We're going to see the really big changes in the coming election. As more and more people, because this movement is not going to die. These people, these Bernie supporters, are not going to go back to their normal lives after all the money and all the hours that they put into this. This is what they want.
Right.
I mean, like Bernie Sanders has said, Medicare for all is popular. His ideas are popular. He was popular until everybody said, the DNC said, well, wait a minute. No, let's, like Joe Biden again. And for some reason, everybody jumped. But just, bringing, this back to the podcast and back to our message, who, honestly, at the end of the day of that debate, who do you think best represented the working poor? Did Joe Biden's policies reflect what we actually need to stimulate the working poor? Or, do Bernie's ideas go too far? Could we talk about that a little bit? Medicare for all versus the Biden healthcare plan.
I think Bernie was the only one standing up for the working poor. Biden is a DNC member, and he's establishment minded. And that's what he is. He's corporate minded. He has no concept of what the working poor, that the working poor even exist. He's middle class and up. And he's helping the poverty stricken. That's what the establishment does. So the only one out there who was fighting for us was Bernie. And now he knows he's fighting a losing battle. I did like that he called Biden out on the Social Security lies of, and there are tapes and tapes and tapes of YouTube videos saying that. But if you notice, the media didn't pose them. But Bernie was right there saying,
Bernie had to.
Go to YouTube.
Yeah, Bernie had to post them.
That's the problem, is the media. The media just controls the narrative. Why do you think Bloomberg won American Samoa? What is Bloomberg to American Samoa? He's on their televisions. That's all they know about our elections.
Yep.
Crazy.
Yep, it was a familiar name because we're on my TV.
Bernie gets his money from us, from donations, from small donations, from millions of Americans. Biden gets his money from pharmaceutical companies, oil companies, health insurance industry. He's going to represent their interests. And if he can do a better job of acting than a Trump and can pretend he's helping the poor, then that's what they go for. That's the way they've always done it.
That was another thing about the debate also. I think our bar was lowered for Biden to begin with. So that way when he spoke coherently, we were like, he can do it.
He did a good job.
For president.
He did a good adrenaline shot before, and he did a good job. The bar is a lot lower for him. Which is
I don't think that the bar is necessarily lower for him when he's the front runner in both popularity and delegates. And even people at work that I know, I don't know too many people who were setting the bar low for him.
I think it's a subconscious lowering of the bar because he's such a buffoon, and he's been known for his gaffes for decades. You just don't expect much from him. He's the nice guy. Right. He's not he doesn't have the evil Hillary Clinton stuff that she has. Right. But
until he makes her his vice president.
It could happen.
It could happen. It's going to be a female, he said. Who better? Who better than the DNC Golden Girl?
And I can't see Biden debating Trump. I don't see how that works. But
no.
People don't want Trump. They don't want Biden. So they're looking to other places. And that's good. Frankly, we need greater representation. We need more opinions instead of just these billionaires that run everything.
We also need the media to show us these things.
Well, the media is corrupt. The media is bought and paid for.
Who here is planning to Bernie or bust? And we'll just kind of go down the line. I will start, and I will say that I hate the whole Bernie or bust like the way it's worded, because at the end of the day, like what we said, it's not just about Bernie, it's about voting for authenticity and voting for a candidate for change. But in that regard, I am going to Bernie or bust because obviously, yes, Bernie is the only one advocating for change. And if there were another candidate in that spot, then maybe I would support them. But at the moment it is Bernie Sanders, so I don't play. And I don't know, maybe once debates come and it's Trump versus Biden, maybe I'll get fired up and feel like I need to vote on election day for Biden, but I don't think I'll have that need. And if I do, I'll know election day. But at this moment, I'm not. Cindi?
From day one, from 2016, from that election, I felt like I was voting under duress from the DNC by voting for Hillary when I wanted Bernie. The DNC didn't let Bernie in. Bernie succumbed and endorsed Hillary because just like he's going to be doing for Biden, because that's what the DNC wants. So in light of that, from day one, I said this time I was going to vote my heart, Bernie or bust. Uh, I don't want Trump, but I also don't want the DNC to get Biden. And so I won't know until I get in that voting booth. I might, just because November's a ways away yet. But I've been planning on doing Bernie as a write-in, and then all my friends are vote blue no matter who. But and New Jersey's going to go blue anyway. We always do. So my vote really won't count whether I go Biden or Bernie. We're going to be a blue state. But I don't think Biden's going to beat Trump. So either way, it's a wasted vote. Vote for Biden. It's a waste. He's not going to beat Trump. Vote for Bernie. It's a waste because he's not really running if he doesn't get the nomination. So either way, I think we're going to get 4 more years of Trump.
Peace. Are you going to Bernie or bust?
Yeah, I'm not going to vote for Biden. And I think that it's dangerous rhetoric to see what these Democratic candidates have been talking about when it comes to Trump, how he's the biggest threat to America and how he's somebody who needs to be taken out of office. Anyone would be better than Trump. I think that that's completely false. And when we're looking at this coming election, we need to vote for change and revolution. And I would vote for Bernie Sanders if he were the nominee for the Democrats, but I don't entirely support Democrats historically anyway. I didn't support Hillary, and I wouldn't support Biden. And I think that there are much worse possibilities than Trump serving another 4 years. And we, from now on, need to vote for change and vote for revolution and vote for the things that Bernie has been fighting for.
Dan, are you going to Bernie or bust?
I agree with what you guys are all saying, but I think, and especially with what Pete just said, I'm not a Democrat. I probably thought I was when I was younger, but they've been lying for so long and so consistently, and what they did in 16 and what they're doing now in 2020 to make believe that this is a democratic process to pick this nominee when it never was, and making all these people spend all their hard-earned money and all their time for nothing is reprehensible. So yeah, I'm not voting Democrat or Republican ever again, probably. I mean, they need to go away, and they will. I mean, we're on that path.
Yeah,
And
I wonder what generation will actually see that happen.
I think it's going to be soon. I think we're going to see a lot of viable third parties coming into this election
Well,
over the coming months, because there's a lot of people that are going to be so discouraged.
If there's 20 people running, I think we should be voting for 20 people. Casting our vote for one of those 20 people.
Well, and that's with a publicly funded election, you can do that. But right now we don't have that. That's why Bloomberg was able to just walk in and take 15-20% of the vote. I mean, it's crazy, the system that we have. Yeah. But and I stand by what I said before too. That I don't think Bernie would be a failed presidency, and it would reinforce for another 100 years the failures of socialism. And not because it's his fault, but because the establishment doesn't work. There needs to be revolution. It needs to be overthrown. All of these corrupt politicians, all of them. Why is the Congress and the Senate full of millionaires? Why? Their jobs don't pay that much.
Yeah.
They get all this money from all these special interests. Yep. And they beckon. These are the people who they work for, literally.
Yeah, it's just a shame that because of our two-party system, which is really one party, two sides, we can't vote for who we want, but who they allow us to vote for. What the hell kind of voting system is that in America, in a free country? It makes no sense.
And that's how it's always been. But the mistake they made this time is they let people spend their hard-earned money and valuable time doing something for nothing.
Yeah.
doing so. They should never have allowed Bernie in the race if they weren't going to let him have it.
Right.
And
Corporations do that, though. They hire bad people. They'll give them a good write-up, good recommendation to send them to some other corporation just to get rid of them. So they'll let Bernie run. They'll let him do whatever he wants, just for the good show. And then take it all away. Teachers, they have to get 3 years and a day, 2 years and a day, 4 years and a day to make tenure. On that day, that extra day, that's when they get fired. But they'll send them away with a good recommendation to go to another school.
Yep.
That's how they live. That's their life.
moving on, this will be the final topic. Let's talk working poor. So this is our discussion topic. Just throwing us into here. So I'm from the state of Illinois, and Cindi, Dan, and Peace are all from New Jersey. They're just like, they cluster over there, I guess. But yeah, that's how it works in Jersey. And both of our states introduced legislation that has passed and been signed by the governors to where they would both increase their minimum wage to $15 an hour. New Jersey is doing it by the year 2024, and Illinois is doing it by the year 2025. And so obviously we're representing the working poor. We are the working poor. How is this going to help us? And how's it going to help you?
Well, it's not enough. It's not a living wage. $15 an hour is not a living wage. When FDR implemented the minimum wage, it was designed to support a family of four, and the mother stayed home typically. So it's not a minimum wage if it doesn't provide that. But yeah, it's better than nothing. I mean, you got to go in the right direction.
Dollars a long time ago. It never increased like it should have. So $15 needs to be the minimum, and it's way past due already. And we're not going to get it until 2024, 25, like you said.
And with this, economic backlash, it's probably going to be inflated by then, and we're going to need more than $15 an hour because, we need more now.
Right. Teachers, by the way, are part of the working poor. That's sad. That's a sad place for teachers to be. Raising the youth, teaching them to think, teaching them to vote, helping raise voters in their working poor. And they're, they deserve more money. Everybody deserves more money. But for teachers to be in the working poor and the wealthy, like sports figures, athletes, perhaps, congressmen, they're getting all these tax breaks.
Then we have to think, are the stores going to raise prices? And that's the thing. We can't raise the minimum wage, I don't think, without putting some type of policy in here that says, we're raising the minimum wage, and large corporations like Walmart, Target, Amazon, we need to put in there, if they raise their prices due to this, we need to be able to go in assess how much they make a year and determine, if they're raising their prices out of spite due to the minimum wage increase. If Walmart can afford to keep their prices as, this low and still make a profit, then just because the minimum wage is increased does not mean they should be able to price gouge. And I'm just afraid that, we don't have the policies here that say you can't do this. And, this is what has happened right over history. The minimum wage goes up and then prices go up. So what's going to stop the working poor from almost being indebted even more from this? And it is just over such a long period of time. We need it now, but what do? What's the I know we're not politicians or anything, but what would be the median here, or just what do we need? What do you need?
It's free market capitalism, laissez-faire. It's when you allow businesses to charge whatever they want, then they can do whatever they want. There's no control.
That's what I'm saying. We have to control them. We have to say, you raise your prices because of this increase, and you don't have to, then you are being taxed you are being fined a certain amount of money. We have to have some type of restriction here and some type of hold on these corporations where they can't do this. And there's just so much talk, about, taxing the corporations, taxing the rich, yet they can go and do stuff like this. And
you know what else would help to offset federal minimum wage is nationalized health care, because a lot of employers got to pay that for their associates.
Yes.
Definitely, definitely.
Yep.
Peace. I know when the $15 an hour law was passed in New Jersey, you said that there was a company-wide meeting called, and all the employees, were called down to discuss this wage increase. Can you kind of talk about that and how you felt during it?
Yeah, it wasn't specifically about this. This is an annual meeting that they always do. But this past year when they did it, that was the primary focus, going in to all the numbers and details about how we can't afford it. And, thank goodness that they've got 6 years to implement it, because there's no way that they could do it right off the bat. And, I think that's a part of the good thing about the progression, is because I think that it's giving businesses no excuse to say that they can't afford it, because they have 6 years to work it out, especially such large businesses, which granted isn't as bad. That's where I work. Granted that it's not as big as places like Walmart or Amazon. They still have hundreds and hundreds of employees, multiple stores, and they can afford to do this, because they are making this huge profit where they're able to open all these stores and be so successful. And it needs to trickle back down. And when we have this issue that companies can do whatever they want, and say if they start to raise prices or start to lay people off because they can't afford it, I think that speaks to capitalism in general, and why we need to move away from these systems where we have people on the top getting so rich and making so much money, and people on the bottom working endless hours for nothing. And that's why, these things need to be more, services rendered that are provided by the government and insured.
Completely. And another thing I'm really worried about is, Cindy, brought up earlier, and, someone like me, like I completely make no money at all, like through my student job. I live off my student job that caps at 20 hours a week when I was able to have it, and off of my loans, and grants. That's what I live off right now, being a full-time student, So I do qualify for Medicaid and food stamps now, which I had to fight, forever to get my food stamps back. They just want to cut you off and make you jump through hoops. And there's so many things being a full-time. But anyways, going into that, right, someone like you, Cindy, should qualify for aid, but you don't. And I'm just worried. So what happens now when we raise it to $15 an hour? Are we going to adjust and realize, hey, the new means of living is no longer like this $8.25 an hour? What are we gonna? Is the government gonna realize, okay, so now these poor people, just because they're making 15 an hour, doesn't mean we can cut them off of food stamps. We've got to go back, readjust the lines of poverty, and say, well, it's not obviously here at this line anymore, which we should have done a long time ago, but especially now raising it to 15 an hour, because we can't say 15 an hour, you're cut off your food stamps, you're cut off Medicaid, and good luck, because it's not going to pay for it. And so many people, I think you've talked about it before, Cindy, turning down job promotions so they can keep receiving aid, or, so they can qualify, because they're, when they do get a promotion, their job doesn't pay them enough. I mean, to, cover healthcare and Medicaid, healthcare and food, so they'd rather take the demotion, stay where they're at, so they can qualify for aid. So just to wrap this up, what happens to the people that are on food stamps now, that are in poverty? Is the line going to be changed? And I think that's just a good concern.
Well, for one thing, I happen to live in what's called income-based housing. So the more I make, the more they charge me per month. So I will never get ahead.
Mhm.
And I live here because it's all I can afford. Unless I got a roommate, which I don't know anybody who wants to live with me.
Oh, Cindy, you're livable enough.
I think we're all going to be experiencing that. People are going to have to start living together. It's not going to be. We're not going to be able.
Yeah. Yeah. Communal living.
For final thoughts on this from me, I just know being someone who has, not really ever had consistent housing. Not trying to make this whole big thing, but from growing up consistently in situations of not having, the money to, be able to get everything you need, and then being in a situation where maybe you get a little bit of money, you're never ever getting ahead when you're poor. You're getting, yeah, maybe you get someone gives you a gift of, $1,000 or something, right? We're talking about this $1,000. Well, people that are poor and getting this $1,000, they needed this $1,000 before the coronavirus even happened, and we weren't giving it to them. So it's like you give a poor person a little bit of money and it's gone in a day. $1,000 can be gone in a second because you've got to buy toothpaste that you don't have. You've got to get milk, because the carton you got's expired. Your dog needs food. These are real things that real people are dealing with, and we're talking about $15 an hour in 5-6 years when this was implemented. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. It's not enough. And how we're all of a sudden saying, let's take Bernie Sanders' policies that he wants to do for the long haul and implement them now to fool people. And this crisis is disgusting. Oh, we're going to provide sick leave right now, and your medical bills are covered if you get sick for now. But what happens when this is over? And there's an article we didn't even talk about tonight where some people that are recovering from coronavirus, even though they're recovered, they've lost 20 to 30% lung function. What happens when the national emergency, if it ever ends? What happens to their medical coverage then when Medicare isn't there to provide for them anymore, because we don't have Medicare for all, period. These are things that the working poor want answered, and we want it, we want delivered. We've been fighting for it. Like you said, Dan, money's been put into Bernie Sanders' campaign, millions of dollars. So we want answers, and that's where I stand on it. 15 is not enough.
15's a start. It's a nice solid amount. It needed to be done 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And by the time it comes, we'll need 20. 15 will, like I said, in the apartment that I live in, it will mean more rent. My rent will go up. The more I make, the more they charge.
And with the $15 an hour discussion in every discussion, I feel like we need to be moving away from these conventional ways of thinking, like making minimum wage $15 an hour, which has been a conversation for a decade. We need to, start thinking more in ways of real change and revolution. And we can't keep, abiding by the way that the establishment has wanted this to function from the beginning.
Yeah.
Dan, are you going to take us home?
Burn it the fuck down.
Wow!
Nothing ever changes without people in the streets. That's the only way we're going to have changes through revolution. We have to take the power back. It's the only way. The powerful are just too powerful and getting more powerful every day. And nothing is going to change until we are marching in the streets.